This video is going to be a little bit different. I've gotten a lot of questions about how I actually make the airplane videos and the in-cockpit videos, in particular what system I'm using to actually capture not just the video but the audio from the airplane. So this is going to be a tech tips video on how I actually make the cockpit videos that so many of you seem to enjoy. That really comes down to three different things: the video, the audio, and putting it all together. So let's start with the video. As I mentioned in a previous video, I started off using a digital camcorder which we had purchased when our now 22-year-old was a baby. It was a very basic camcorder. It was good for the time, but these days, gosh, your iPhone camera has better video recording capability than what that unit had. So we'd had that thing sitting put away for years, and when we got the camera, I had actually used that digital camcorder to film some videos of various airplanes as I was looking. And so I thought, well, I'll try to get something from the cockpit when I was flying. Rigged it up. It was not great. It was 420 resolution. It was heavy. By modern standards, it was bulky. There was no good way to mount it. It tended to move around, so the videos were not good, to say the least. But it was something that I could do. I had a very good friend and his family who live in the Tampa, Florida area, and I'd gone down there on a business trip, and I stopped to see them. I was in the Florida area, and I spent the night with them, and I suggested, why don't we go out to dinner somewhere, and why don't we take them, go flying. They were very excited at the idea, so we actually flew from Tampa down to Key West, got dinner, and came back that same night, and they were just so blown away. And I had tried to video the departure from Tampa Airport when we went, so my friend actually saw the camcorder, saw my little rig, and realized how ineffective it was. As a thank you gift, he gave me my very first GoPro camera. And so I now had a GoPro camera, which worked very well, and what it allowed me to do was actually shoot decent videos. But pretty soon I realized that what I wanted was the ability to get multiple shots, just the way other people were doing. And so I got a second GoPro camera that I purchased on Craigslist as a used one, and I started building the mounting rigs. Now, there were two different videos that or views that I was trying to capture. One of them was the out the cockpit view, the outside view over the glare shield. And for that, I used my GoPro camera with a little tripod that I purchased online. You can see it here. It was just one of those that screws into the camera attachment. It's designed for cameras with the standard screw-in attachment, and that worked pretty well. Now, the inside of the cockpit video was a little bit different. The airplanes are all set up differently. Cockpits are set up differently. A number of people I knew rigged up a camera hanging from the overhead of the cockpit, shooting down. And one of the nice things about the GoPro is with that kind of fisheye lens, it doesn't have to be very far back to capture the entire cockpit view. And my desire was to really show as much of the cockpit as I could and as much of the instrument panel as I could, because I thought it would be useful not just for the YouTube videos, but for myself to be able to actually have a video and see what the instruments were showing and being able to zoom in on it. So I experimented with different things. Unfortunately, the overhead of the MU2 really didn't work well for that, because it is a fabric covered or a pleather covered area on top, designed to make it removable to access the ducts and the wiring ducts and the air conditioning ducts up there. So there was nothing I could easily mount to. Fortunately, there's some cabinetry behind the pilot and co-pilot seats. Behind each one of them is a small bulkhead with a door which is designed to close the cockpit off from the cabin of the airplane. And I was able to find this attachment for the MU2, or for the GoPro. It's a suction cup which is designed to attach it to something like the roof of a car or something like that. And I was able to actually work on mounting that to the Formica. It seemed to work okay. I mounted it and hung the camera on, and it was able to hold the weight. So now I had two cameras and was able to get both views I wanted to get. The next challenge was synchronization, and we'll talk about more of this in audio. But I had a trouble that I wanted to be able to jump from shot to shot, or I was thinking, wouldn't it be neat if I could show both shots simultaneously? And what I settled on was incredibly low tech. But I would take the cameras so that they were both facing me. The cockpit camera was fine because it obviously showed the cockpit. But I would take the glare shield camera and turn it around, just rotate it around on that screw. And then what I would do is I would simulate a movie clapper. I would go 1, 2, 3, clap. And that also had the help of work capturing the audios we'll talk about later. But what I was able to do then was take the two videos, put them into my movie editing software, and I could slide them until the place where my hands came together was identical in both. And from that point, I knew that the rest of the video was completely synchronized and it would work well. So that was my solution to synchronizing. So now I have the way to capture my video and get the two shots I wanted. Which takes us to step 2, capturing the audio. Now, you know, those of you who use GoPros, that they do have a audio recorder and that there's a small microphone on the GoPro, which is pretty good under most conditions. Where it doesn't work that great is in a high ambient noise environment. And the cockpit of any airplane is a high ambient noise environment. You've got the noise from the propellers and the engines, you've got vibration in the fuselage from the air flowing past, and then you've got airflow noises going over the windshields in the cockpit when you're in a faster airplane, which can be quite noisy in and of itself. Now that doesn't mean that the MU2, oh my gosh, it is clear blue skies above me, but we're getting a little bit of rain. Anyway, that doesn't mean that the MU2 is a particularly noisy airplane. It's not, but it makes enough noise that there was a constant drone and hum in the videos. And you've heard some of that, especially if you look at my earlier videos. So I wasn't thrilled with that because it didn't capture me talking very well. But more than that, it didn't capture the intercom system where I was talking to other people and my radio communications, which I thought was a pretty neat part of the video. So I had to have a way to tap into the airplane audio system. At first I thought it would be pretty easy. The GoPro had come with an adapter, which gives you a plug that goes into the GoPro and then a 3.5mm standard audio jack on the other side. And so I thought what I could do was just get a converter from the airplane size, which is a 1/4-inch jack. It's the standard audio plugs that you see with large microphones and soundboards and that kind of stuff, or old-fashioned headphones for those of you who are old enough to remember that big jack. And I just had to convert it over. So I found a 1/4-inch to 3.5mm converter, plugged it in, and I got and then I had my long little 3.5mm cable. So I plugged the converter into the headphone jack. I plugged my 3.5mm cable into the converter and then ran it to one of the GoPros and plugged it into the audio adapter. And it did capture the audio. However, what I didn't realize was that that cable was unshielded and that there was a lot of electrical noise in the audio system that I couldn't hear over my over my headphones, or certainly I'm not even sure they were actually in the headphones, but the GoPro picked it up completely. And by that, an electrical noise, what I mean is there's a lot of things that make pulses of electricity on the airplane. In specific, there are the beacons, which are mechanical rotating lights. Those are the red ones that you typically see on top and bottom of the airplane that flash. And on some airplanes those flash. In the MU2 they're mechanical and there's a little motor, and it's almost like the old style police light. It rotates back and forth, and so you've got that noise. But then there are also the strobes, and on the MU2 you've got them on each wingtip and on the tail. Those are the bright white lights that flash every so often, and those are actually little strobe lights those in particular, when they fired, they would actually, you would hear a surge of electrical noise in the audio that the GoPro was capturing, and you would just hear this bzzz, bzzz, bzzz that was continuous. And I tried to damp out that frequency. I tried to get some audio editing and doing it, but it really didn't work well. And what I realized was that what I believed was that the audio cable was somehow picking up that electrical noise and it wasn't filtering it out, or that the GoPro itself was being affected by it. So I came up with another solution, which was, could I isolate the sound and capture it with something else? A number of people I saw online were using other recording devices to capture the sound instead of their GoPro cameras because they felt they got better, cleaner audio. And so I looked around. Some people were buying dedicated recording devices with microphones. Unfortunately, that doesn't work ideally in the airplane because of the ambient noise situation. I needed something that I could feed a signal into. And what I came upon was that there were some decent audio recording apps for the iPhone. And so the trick was to get the audio signal from that 1/4-inch jack all the way to my iPhone. And at the time I had an iPhone 8, and that had a 3.5mm jack on the end. So my first thought was, okay, I can just go with my same converter, run the cable in and run it into here, and it should work. Well, my only concern was I going to have that noise interference? Well, I went out, tested it, ran for a flight, and imagine my surprise. I had a recording of absolutely nothing. The iPhone had a recording, but it was completely blank. So I thought I had a program problem, or that my iPhone wasn't working. And so I tested it out and spoke into the iPhone and did another recording, and it captured it fine. So then I thought, well, maybe my jack is bad or somehow or something. So the iPhone came with a set of earbuds which had a microphone built into it that you could talk to, and so I plugged that in, used the recording software, and it worked perfectly fine. So I had to figure out, why was I getting a recording that way, but I wasn't getting it with this 3.5mm cable? Well, I'd like to say that I figured it out on my own, but to be honest, I researched online. And what I discovered was that the iPhone 3.5mm receptacle is different than most of the ones that are out there. Most of the ones are designed for headphones, and they have 2 isolators on them and 3 connectors. There's 3 wires. One of them is a ground, and then there's a left and right audio signal for a stereo signal to send different audio to each headphones. Well, with the iPhone, it supports that. It's backwards compatible with that, but it has a receptacle which can accommodate a plug with 4 different connectors on it, and the 4th one being the microphone in signal. So if you look at the iPhone jack on your earbuds, that's what it had, was the same size plug, but it had 3 isolators and 4 connectors. So my problem was I had to be able to get into that kind of plug. Now, I'd like to say that I mechanically soldered something up, cut the plug off, but I wasn't that fancy. So I researched online, and I figured there had to be a connector that would convert over from a 1/4-inch jack to make an audio input that was designed to convert that to a microphone input and send the signal going into an iPhone. And what I found was a very interesting product. I've got no financial interest in it, called the iRig. And what the iRig is used for is for guitarists, electric guitarists in particular, where they can actually plug the 1/4-inch standard audio plug into their guitar and play it, but then the cable runs out and plugs into their iPhone, and they can actually record what they're playing to actually capture it. So that's what I went with. It seemed like it would work, and sure enough, it worked really well. And even best, that iRig somehow was able to isolate the noise better using that iRig, and now I had a 3-foot audio cable, 1/4-inch jack, which was shielded, not like the little 3.5mm cable. And between the two, they were shielded enough to cut out the electrical noise, so I was able to get the audio. So now what I had was 2 cameras to run. I would start recording on my iPhone, and I had to synchronize things up again. But I was already doing that clap, and so I was able to make a distinct sound where I would actually say clap. The microphone The audio system clearly wasn't going to capture my clap, but if I said clap into the intercom, I had it. So 1, 2, 3, clap. I now had a video thing to synchronize the two videos and an audio signal at exactly the same time to synchronize the audio track, and we were good to go. So I was able to capture the recordings, and then we go on to the video processing. Now, at the time, my main computer was a Windows PC, but I have the Adobe suite for work I did, and while I'd never used it, Adobe Premiere was part of that suite. I used Photoshop, but Adobe Premiere, as most of you know, is a very good video editing software. It's a top-of-the-line one, and it has all the tips and tools and techniques built into it, including the ability to patch signals together and different video streams, and to put an audio stream and fade them in and do the whole thing. So while I'm by no means an expert at Adobe Premiere, that's what allowed me to actually capture and integrate two camera videos plus a separate audio video and make the videos you see today. So I am by no means producing the kind of high-tech stuff that so many YouTubers do, which truly impresses me with their production value, but it's a way to solve the technical solution of how do you film a cockpit video in an airplane and capture that audio that so many people find interesting. I hope you think that this video was interesting. I hope you get some benefit out of it. If you're interested in making your own cockpit videos and would like some more details on the equipment I bought or how I work things out, please drop me a line. Otherwise, give me some suggestions for future videos. Until the next time, fly safe and remember to aviate, navigate, and communicate in that order.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on your screen and hit the little bell down below to get notified when new videos get posted.
Mitsubishi Deer Mike Sierra, continue north out to Jason Gate, contact Potomac.
North out to Jason Gate, contact Potomac, Mike Sierra.